I've heard the advice of, okay, we got to be long-term focused, but I might want to dissect it even more because I'd be curious to see what is considered like a long-term planning. Because I've noticed, especially in a time where it seems there's shiny objects everywhere, okay?
Mhm.
AI has come out and it's like, oh, we got to go into this. And a lot of times I could be thinking about, oh, I could take on an initiative and like we'll make money in like 6 months. Is that considered long term? Or are we talking about having something that it needs to pass some sort of litmus test over, is it an X amount of time? I'd be curious to know what kind of advice you would give for people who are trying to find that one thing to go for and maybe are being distracted by these shiny things. Maybe there's a better way to go at this.
Look, I mean, that's a great question to ask to yourself. And obviously, I think we have to refer to venture capitalists and learn from them if we want to understand how do they actually make all this innovative, extremely successful bets? How do they find Googles of the world, Modernas of the world, or Ubers of the world? How do they do that? They think long. And when we refer to long, they refer to years, if not decades. I mean, 10 plus years will be a pretty rare circumstances, but they are very patient people. More importantly, if you think about that, if imagine you're an investor in Uber, you have to struggle through so many years of deep losses and still have this trust. And to be honest, I would use the word from the title of this podcast, love. Love to whom? To founders, to people who join the startup as employees, trust and love to users, which are currently, and drivers who are currently making sure that the product actually exists. And then one day, that company will IPO or go public, and eventually venture capitalists will be paid back for all their risks and patience. But they have to wait patiently for that moment in time. So to address your specific question, it's all about at least 5 to 10 years. These are the bets which are making sense for venture capitalists. And we believe, after reading this book and after interviewing hundreds of venture capitalists and founders, that's at least some of your bets should have this kind of time horizon as well. The challenge here is that to find such bets, you may have to use another principle that we outline in the book. It is saying no, and saying no to many options or ideas or flashy, cool stuff which is surrounding you. And there are so many. I mean, even VCs, I have to admit, they are sometimes making some bad bets, like in digital currencies or some crypto projects. And there are so many. And you have to say no. And the question is, how often do you have to say no if you want to be in this kind of the venture mindset mood? We actually learned the number. And Ilyas Trebolev's research suggests that VCs start with this very big wide funnel, and it starts with a funnel of 101 options or opportunities. Think of that. It means that you have to decline 100 times. You have to say no to entrepreneur and to yourself, to that pitch deck and to that idea, to finally find that single opportunity which will become your bet. It's pretty hard to digest and to accept. Saying no 100 times is also a part of the game, and staying still positive in your search for that 101st, which may pay back.
That's very interesting. Alex, as you're saying this, you're talking about thinking about long term, having a level of trust, having a love for the idea that you've decided to choose into. That seems like things I would have never heard from a venture capitalist, because I'm having a cartoon idea of what a venture capitalist is. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, where it's like money hungry, cutthroat person that comes in and guts a company, takes control, just wants the bottom line. But here you're talking about a lot of things that are like not making a quick buck. They're about long-term trust, love. That sounds pretty healthy for a partner to have in your organization. And so I'd be curious to know how much of the industry actually operates that way versus maybe a few of the bad apples that might be changing the narrative. Because I've seen it at sales. Like, this is the whole reason I have my podcast, is because most people look at sales as cutthroat, manipulative, deceptive a-holes. And I'm like, no, they're great salespeople and you need to discover them. And I'm trying to bring that kind of awareness to people. I'm wondering if venture capitalists has a kind of a similar reputation fix they're trying to work on.
Well, geez, I think the world is very complex, meaning that like anyone, VCs will have to act differently in different situations. And let's make a step back. VCs are making pretty big bets on something which may not be even described as a business plan, and in reality, too often may not be even described on a napkin, which is kind of a legendary napkin where business plans are drawn on. In some cases, it's simply a bet on people. So if you think from that perspective, when they bet on, we call it a bet on a jockey rather than a horse, meaning that they bet on people rather than on a business plan. But that bet is pretty important and big and ambitious at the same time. So therefore, then they start to pay a lot of attention to how the business performs, how the team performs, and whether they're actually meeting the targets that they promised. And in some cases, they're extremely helpful people. They're truly loving people because they want this startup to be successful. They are in this game. Their incentives are fully aligned or almost fully aligned with entrepreneurs. They want this company to be successful. But at the same time, they also want to make sure that they meet all the milestones that any startup should meet to raise their next fund, Series A, Series B, Series C. And therefore, we use so-called principle, and in the book it is mentioned as double down or quit, which means that in so many cases, VCs have to make a step back and tell to themselves whether they want to double down. Is it the right company to give more cash to? Do they still believe in the idea and in the team? More importantly, the book is written about venture capitalists, but to be honest, not for venture capitalists, because we think that so many corporate managers, so many salespeople, myself included, have that idea that it's just all about failure is not an option. It just takes some time and effort and resilience, and we'll make it happen. We'll make this deal go through all these challenges that we have experienced. The challenges that, unfortunately or fortunately, or what venture capitalists tell us, and all their experience, or smart ones at least, that you sometimes have to quit. Simply decide that it's not the bet that worth pursuing, that you may want to spend all your, more importantly, time and energy on other bets. And that's the challenge, that you have to some extent, audit your own time schedule. Is this the right thing that I'm focused on? Is this the right business idea? Is this the right book, article? Is this the right lead, if we refer to the sales process, to focus on and continue to double down? Or it is time to quit, to have that energy to be focused on something else. So getting back to your question, and you asked whether they're ruthless, hard guys which will cut their costs and fire CEOs and control the company. They do. In some cases, they have to save the for the bigger good, to make sure that the company actually can grow further. And in some cases, it's actually amazing to see the CEO who would grow with the company and scale in terms of skills, 10x, 100x, and then 1000x. It's a rare case, to be honest. So in so many instances, you have to replace the founder as a CEO with some professional CEO. It's never happening in a nice way. It's too often happening in a pretty hard way. So this is the reason why in some cases we hear and read about that in media. They feel that perception of VC as ruthless or kind of immediate decision guys.
Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.